Welcome to Hello Nigeria. Today's Human Angle Thursday. This is where we talk about personal and human interest stories that you can learn one or two things from. On today's show, we'll be having Raquel Jacob. She was here a while ago and her story is phenomenal. I'm sure you would learn so much about thriving in the midst of adversity. And also today on the show, during our Trending Stories segment, Minister of Justice Abubakar Malami has said the federal government, we've heard this story before, but is it going to happen this time around? It says the federal government is going to publish the names of looters in the country. And also we have an event for you, yes. Coca-Cola, our team went out to cover that event. So we have a bumper package for you today. Do stay with us. Hello Nigeria continues in a moment. We'll go on a quick break, and when we come back, we'll begin the show in full swing. I'm Benga Boroa. Hello Nigeria.
Etisent Nigeria. That means hello Nigeria in Tree.
Hi, my name's Amanda Portello. I'm from South Africa.
My name is Mimi Akinkube.
Hello, my name is Candace Nkotgisek. I'm from Cameroon.
My name is Idori Nanang.
My name is Efwa Osei.
And the most interesting thing I found about Nigeria is the extraordinary hustling energy.
And make sure you keep watching
Hello Nigeria.
We do it all for you. We do it all for you. Eh, oh.
You're welcome back to Hello Nigeria, and I'm not here alone today. We made a quick substitution. Unfortunately, Ayo Thompson can't be here, so Bimbo Aweyele, yes, he's of the news department of Cool Wazobia Info. There's not a strange face here. We'll be joining in for the show today. Nice to have you, Bimbo.
Always a pleasure to be with you guys.
How are you enjoying the Lagos weather?
Well,
I mean, every day back-to-back rain.
well, so far I've not been able to either enjoy it or not enjoy it because I'm always locked up, doing work, so I've not really been able to go outside and feel the weather.
You don't live in a flooded area. It's not a problem for you.
No, I live on the mainland.
Oh, okay, that's nice.
I live on the mainland.
You're proud to announce that you live on the mainland.
Definitely.
I heard the state of the roads are bad. Victoria Garden City, a lot of places.
Well, I wouldn't know because I live on the mainland.
Enjoy. And some were complaining about the heat wave in the UK a while ago. I have a friend that said he's considering coming to Lagos for winter. This is our winter season.
Yeah.
Why I like it, I mean, we've started exporting yam, and we need all the rains to make the plants grow. We're looking at $8 billion a year in exports.
Fantastic. Yeah, even though some have criticized,
saying people don't have food to eat, and we're looking into yams.
But the Minister of Agriculture was very, very succinct. He was very precise. He said, the yams that are even being exported, they are excess yam. It's not the new yam. It's yam in storage. And Nigeria can never have a food crisis.
Are you very sure about that?
Yeah, we can never.
Population is growing
our problem
exponentially.
What we could have is malnutrition, which is not combining
the right meals.
The right mix. But we can never have a food crisis.
Okay, I pray so, and I hope it doesn't happen. And if it does happen,
it has never happened. It will never happen.
And I always tell people, look, we can
except
eat.
There is
how many
war.
times in a week do you even eat yam? You can live on other things.
Except there is war. I mean, food is so cheap in this country. It's so cheap.
People listening will disagree with you, saying a tuber of yam for 700 to 1,000 naira is not cheap.
Well, you have to know where to go to get food.
Please tell me where to get cheap food.
The problem is, part of the problem the problem we have is that storage. We have a storage problem. We have a maintenance problem. We have a problem of archiving, so to speak,
and infrastructure problems. Now let's look at
not so much. I mean, the little things that you should be doing. Take tomatoes for example, because I stay somewhere where the tomatoes are it's like a depot of tomatoes. One moment 1/4 of the year tomatoes are like a dime a dozen, Another time, tomatoes are like gold.
It's seasonal.
Yeah, it's not so much about it being seasonal, but that we do not store when we have excess.
Now, the vice president the acting president, I beg your pardon, was in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia, for the extraordinary session of the African Union. Robert Mugabe donated cows and $1 million towards the food crisis. And also, everyone was present, the who and who in Africa. We always talk about Africa, one Africa, like the European Union, but we don't have a single free movement of goods and persons. What do you think we stand to gain? We'll look at this video, and when we come back, talking about what we can gain if Africa was really united and we had just one Africa.
As many of us know, the continent is not a single country. Africa is currently divided between 54 different independent countries, but what would happen if all of these countries united today to form a united African state? What would Africa the country look like in the world, and how powerful of a country would it actually be? For starters, Africa is huge and covers over 20% of all the land on Earth, making it about 70% of the same size as all of Asia, or about 3 times the size of all of Europe. 1.2 billion people currently live in Africa, or about 16% of the entire global population. So interestingly, a united African state would actually have a smaller population than both India and China. But this wouldn't be the case for very long, since Africa is currently experiencing the largest population boom in the world. The population of the continent has doubled since just 1990, and the continent is expected to surpass the populations of both India and China in the same year, 2022. According to official UN estimates, the population of Africa is expected to reach a massive 4.4 billion people by the end of the 21st century and comprise 39% of the global population. This enormous demographic shift in the future will ensure that a united African state has a dominant position in the world, but it comes with several challenges. The population of Africa currently is the youngest in the world, with a median age of just 19.7 years old compared to the global average of 30.4 years old. Literacy rates are also low, with only 64% of the population being considered literate, but this varies between regions. In Libya, for example, the literacy rate is very high at 94.2%, while in South Sudan it is very low at only 27%. HIV infection rates in the continent would also pose a severe challenge to the United Africa, as 11% of the population in sub-Saharan Africa is currently infected with the disease. In addition to these challenges, a united African state would also struggle with the extreme diversity on the continent. Africa is the most linguistically and ethnically diverse continent on the planet, where somewhere between 1,250 and 3,000 languages are spoken. Because of this, Africa is the most multilingual place in the world, where many people speak at least 2 African languages and 1 additional European language. A situation similar to South Africa, where there are 11 official languages, would probably have to exist. The most common languages are Arabic, spoken by about 17% of the population, mostly in North Africa, Swahili by about 10% located mostly in Southeast Africa, Berber by 5%, and Hausa by another 5%. English, French, and Portuguese are very common lingua francas understood by a large amount of people, where English is understood by 13% of the population, French close behind at 11.5%, and Portuguese by 3%. All of these languages would probably have official status as well as several others. There are hundreds if not thousands of different ethnic groups that exist in Africa. We're used to seeing this map to represent the continent, but a more accurate map may be this one, which shows how incredibly diverse the continent really is. Because of this, it's almost impossible to give figures for exact ethnic populations in the continent, but no one single group would even have over an 8% share of the total population. In terms of religions, here is a religious map of the continent. Christians and Muslims would be almost perfectly divided, with each faith claiming about 47% of the continent's population. Traditional African religions would represent about 10% of the population, and this adds to more than 100% because several people hold mixed beliefs. About a final 2% of the population would be atheist or non-religious. Next, we have a map of where the 10 largest cities on the continent are located. The biggest city, Lagos in Nigeria, has a greater population than all of Romania combined. But despite this, it probably wouldn't be the capital city. I predict that the capital city would probably be located here in Ethiopia at Addis Ababa. This is because an organization called the African Union already exists, similar in some ways to the European Union in Europe.
Interesting, eye-opening video about Africa. For those that think Africa is a country. No, Africa is not a country. It's a continent broken down into 54 different parts and units. And listening to what the analyst said there, average age of 19%, and in terms of mineral resources, we're one of the most blessed continents in the world. So why are we stuck where we are? Is Africa really rising, or is it just a myth?
No, I think there's a lot of stagnation, and it's, in my opinion, comes down to a leadership challenge, a dearth in leadership. And we could see it in the graphics, posed by the narrator. The literacy level is just too low. At 27% in East Africa, towards the Horn of Africa, and Libya having one of the highest literacy rates. I mean, you would think that, an area somewhere like West Africa, should have one of the highest literacy rates, but that's not the case. And it's,
So it boils down to leadership, basically.
It boils down to leadership and knowledge, literacy. Because, if you're knowledgeable
but those
about
leaders,
something.
the Mugabes and those that sit tight, the Obiangs in Equatorial Guinea, if you have an informed populace, they will pose a threat.
Yeah, that's what I'm going. Because if you are literate or not, somebody can't just come and feed you garbage and then you take it hook, line, and sinker. We see it happen everywhere. And I think this is some of the fears of the West, because if you consider
Resource
those figures,
the
largely growing population of, it's like you are letting loose illiterate people in the world who are yes men to some certain people. It poses a huge threat.
Exactly, like they say, the idle mind is the devil's workshop. We'll go on a quick break, and when we come back, it'll be time for us to look at the top trending stories in the news. Do stay with us. Hello Nigeria continues shortly. Welcome back to Hello Nigeria. Let's take a look at the trending stories in the country. We'd like to start with this, and we've heard it before. It's not the first time. The Attorney General of the Federation, Mr. Abubakar Malami, Senior Advocate of Nigeria, yesterday said the federal government will publish the names of Treasury looters intermittently after it must have met some conditions. The Federal High Court in Lagos had earlier yesterday gave a ruling compelling the federal government to immediately release to Nigerians information about the names of high-ranking public officials from whom public funds were recovered and the circumstances under which the funds were recovered, as well as the exact amount recovered from each public official. Bimba, over to you. I want to ask you if this is going to serve as a deterrent against looting of any form, and what impact would this court decision have on the overall anti-corruption drive?
Yeah, we hope that it will. It should, in any normal, sane society.
Where people have a sense of shame.
Yeah, it should. It should serve as a deterrent. Back in those days, when I was in primary school, there was this thing called the Black Book, and you used to hammer that, when you go foul of the school's laws, your name will be in the Black Book, and it really used to scare me, really, really back then. But I think all of those values, have been thrown down the waste bin, or down the gutter or something. But it should serve as a deterrent. And,
beyond publishing the name, shouldn't there be consequences?
Some form
of penance should be paid.
Yeah, there should be. I mean, it's stealing, whatever name that we want to call it, treasury looters, it's stealing. That is plain and simple what it is. And every day, we get news from our news desk, the news wires. You need to go to Igbo Shere Court or
magistrate,
or Ikeja and see, and sit down at one of those petty thieving sessions. Those cases, and you'll be angry and annoyed at some of the judgments that people get for stealing a mobile phone, for stealing 20,000 naira.
Meanwhile,
somebody has stolen hundreds of millions of naira. He he has deprived people of infrastructure.
Exactly.
And indirectly killed people.
He has, not indirectly.
You know, he has killed people
the roads,
because,
the money he's meant
because
to
he
was
deprived
diverted.
them of infrastructure that, you know, might have saved their lives.
And then what is more
it.
sacrilegious is during the height of an insurgency that Nigeria has never seen before since the Civil
Yes.
War.
All of
Money
this
that was
happened.
meant to purchase weapons.
Weapons
I mean,
were
this
diverted.
It's a crime against humanity.
It's a crime
and then
against
this
humanity.
man shows up in court with starched guinea. So, I mean, where's the hope for the common man? Somebody steals yam, you show them on crime fighters and you display them at the commissioner's office and all of that. We really need to evaluate our system. That there are different laws for the rich and poor in Nigeria. Moving on from that, still on security matters, but we're looking at state policing. A lot of people have said it was one of the recommendations of the 2015 National Confab and 2014, I beg your pardon, National Confab. And it's led to debate in so many quarters. Former IG Solomon Arashi has called for the decentralization of the Nigerian police force, saying there should be no fears over the cause of the establishment of the state police. And one of the biggest fears is that state governors, who are already seen as emperors, will misuse it since the policemen will be taking their orders from them. Do you think we're ripe for state policing?
State policing is a fantastic idea. It's what the world is doing. Every normal and sane society does not have a federal policing system like we have. I mean, as in the ground troops, the boots on ground police, not like the FBI system where it's a federal policing system, but I mean boots on ground police. So, I mean, it's crazy that, you know, we still have a federal policing system in a country as big as Nigeria. But are we ripe for it? That's another problem, because it's next to insanity, you know, the way our servicemen are being treated welfare-wise. And
some of them are not even familiar with terrain.
Some of them
logistics.
do not really understand, you know. The police system in Nigeria seems to be where the rejects go, you know, when they can't get normal jobs. So you can't expect the best from them because, you know, they've settled for that role. They don't get well paid, and then you arm them with guns and ammunition. You know, so it's almost like, you know, you've
recipe for disaster.
Yeah, it's a recipe for disaster. So if you're going to, and then you look at the state system, how many states are viable right now to pay? How many states are, a lot of these states are owing salaries.
A lot of states, I mean, not a lot of states, quite a number of states are doing their best. It's the purview of the federal government to take care of the police welfare.
Yeah.
But Lagos State, for example, buys helicopters,
You know,
they take care of the whole thing. But how many states are viable enough to do that?
Yeah,
but
I don't think they'll be able to meet the salary.
In general, if we're going to be very serious about security in this country, we might have to take a good look at state policing. It seems to be the way forward, and it's the normal practice in different
Everywhere
parts of
in
the
the
world.
world
I'd also like to suggest
they
they
have
drop
half
the
a
name
brain.
force, because it's a service. You can find missing people. It's not just carrying big guns everywhere and harassing innocents. Okay, let's take a look at our last story. I mean, this is quite big. House of Representatives. I wonder why the House of Representatives is doing this and why the courts and justice system are not. The House of Representatives had a committee investigating OPL 245, very famous oil block. I don't think any oil block in Nigeria has been as famous as the OPL 245. Malibu oil deal has resolved to invite the ex-president Goodluck Jonathan over the diversion of $1.3 billion. The committee is investigating the alleged corruption malpractices due process in the award of oil prospecting license 245. Recall the earlier attempt by the committee on April 17 to summon the former vice president was resisted by the PDP lawmakers who felt the invitation was an affront for the former president, on the former president. We've had landmark cases of corruption. We talk as far back as the Gulf oil windfall. If you look at the former president Olusegun Obasanjo administration, the amount of money, the billions that was pumped into electricity, and yet there's still no light. Even the light at the end of the tunnel is flickering at the moment. So, there was an attempt to invite the former president a while ago, and it met stiff resistance from members of the PDP who saw it as an insult. But is there anyone bigger than the country?
No, there isn't anybody bigger than the country. we've taken this form of government from other countries, or from the United States in particular, this particular system of government. And the president cannot be summoned to a hearing and he will not show up.
Yeah.
You know, so this is a former president. I mean, you served your time. You are now you are not supposed to be, you know, a normal citizen. Yes, you still have all your SS detail and all that, but you should. You see, that's the problem.
You should be before. I mean, this thing has been in the accountability. It's been in the press. Call a world press conference, address the issues, even if you're not going to appear, and say, look, this is what happened, and we can move on from there.
Accountability. And the House of Representatives, the chairman of the House of Representatives, Atunwa, I mean, he made it bare, and he said, you know, he gave 4 reasons why they've decided to call him. You know, that, look, it's not like, we are not, you know, trying to, you know, slight Goodluck Jonathan. He's a nice guy, you know, he served his time. But, you know, he gave 4 reasons. 1, his name came up.
He's a person of interest.
Yeah, when this case, you know, was coming up in Italy, he was the president there. The Attorney General said he did it based on his orders. Another case concerning this issue
so
in the UK, his name came up
but
again.
Let's see how things
So
go.
how can't we, when his name is coming up in Italy and UK, why can't, you know, and his name is coming up in Nigeria, we can't, we can't call him.
It's funny how politics plays out in this country. But let's keep watching. Who knows? He might honor the invitation, or the PDP lawmakers might just do the same thing they did on the 17th of April. We'll go on a quick break now, and today is Thursday, it's time for a Human Angle. We spoke to a young lady, Raquel Jacobs. I mean, she's been through the worst of everything, loss of parents and struggling, but her story is remarkable. It's a story of triumph. I'm sure we can learn so much about perseverance from this.
Etisent, Nigeria. That means hello, Nigeria in Tree.
Hi, my name's Amanda Potelwa. I'm from South Africa.
My name is Mimi Akin-Kubek.
Hello, my name is Candace Nkotgisek. I'm from Cameroon.
My name is Idoinanang.
My name is Efwa Osei.
And the most interesting thing I found about Nigeria is the extraordinary hustling energy.
And make sure you keep watching.
Hello, Nigeria.
We do it all for you. We do it all for you. Oh.
Hello and welcome back to the show. It is time for our top story, and because it's Human Angle Thursday, we like to bring people that can inspire you with their stories and make you see life from the brighter angle. You know, with us in the studio, we have a young woman who in 2011 opened an NGO that was named Beyond the Classroom, but it wasn't always like that. Now she's been through a story and would like to hear what the story and the process is. Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you Raquel Jacobs. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me.
It's good to have you here in the studio. I've heard so much about you.
I have seen, I have heard, and I've experienced so much about you, and I'm really excited that
and I'm sure viewers can't wait to hear your remarkable story.
All right. So Raquel, I heard about you a few years back, particularly because of the work you're doing in schools with young girls and young boys, because you work with school children.
Yes, please.
But I had the opportunity to listen to your story at an event recently, the Lofty Heights Conference, and I just thought you needed to share that with people, just to inspire people that there's light at the end of the tunnel. So I'll just ask you straight up, you know, what was it like growing up? If you can tell us your story, what has made you, formed you to be the Raquel Jacobs that we see today?
Okay. First, there is light at the end of the tunnel, but there are also lights in the tunnel.
Very true.
If you look carefully. My name is Raquel, like you introduced. But I like to say, a lot of people see my name the way it's spelled and written, and then they wonder, how are you from Nigeria, or where did you get your name from? So I like to say, when I was born, I was named Rachel. But then I was a very resilient child and very single-minded. I wanted to have my own way. And so I told my dad at the time that I thought there were too many Rachels in school, and I wanted to tweak the spelling of my name because I didn't think that, you know, I wanted to be called Rachel. When you say Rachel in my school, they're like 10 people that had Rachel, so I wanted something different. And so I started researching if there's any variant of that name anywhere in the world. And then I found Rochelle, French. Then I found Raquel, Spanish, Portuguese. I'm like, oh, I think I like this one. It's short, it's straight to the point, and it's just the same thing. And so it took a while, but then that's how we got here. My father eventually agreed, but it took a long time.
How old were you at the time?
13.
Wow.
The French Rachel is actually Rachel in Yoruba language. That's how they pronounce it.
I was going to say, you did yourself a great favor by going with Raquel.
It's a beautiful name.
So, I mean, from that point already at that young age, you knew that you were someone who, because I heard, I mean, we can't go into details, but I know the battle you had with your dad until he finally surrendered and you had an official name change. He finally agreed to have you called Raquel. Now, you also mentioned what happened. You lost your dad at a young age, and that's when things sort of changed in your life.
Yeah. Okay. When I was 16, I was in boarding school. Yeah, 16, but then I was just going to SS3. Okay. My dad died in an accident. Christmas evening.
Wow. On Christmas Day?
Yes,
oh.
Christmas
Wow.
Day. So for a very long time, we didn't celebrate Christmas in my house. So for Christmas, we're like, yeah, right, what's going on, you know? So Christmas evening, my dad had an accident with his best friend, and then they died on the spot. Right close to our barracks, we were in Kaduna State then.
You're from Kaduna State?
Yes, I am from Kaduna State. Well, I forgot to mention that.
Yeah, because I didn't know until that
yes,
day.
until I mentioned it, yeah. I like to quickly say I'm from Kaduna South, to be precise. And so, yes. And my village name is Kasham. People like to ask, do you have a village name? Yes, it's Kasham. So, so my dad died, and so things took a different turn. The first, I had 3 younger brothers, Julius, George, and Bonfrey, and then, so my younger brother was so little at that time, and my mom she wasn't really, she didn't have a good job at that time, so things just, became very bad for her. She couldn't feed us, she couldn't take care of us, and at 16, I was just turning 16 at that time, I knew that life had just started for me. And my mom was really involved with my dad. I was in love with my dad. Yeah. That she was crying. She cried for 4 years. Like each time we got to my mom is crying. I'm like, it's been a year. You're still crying. So for us, people just knew that this woman's not going to last that long because she was always crying. She always had high BP, and doctors would say your mom is going to die. She doesn't stop crying. And then 4 years later, she passed on.
Wow.
So.
She had hay fever one evening, and doctor said her blood pressure is so high, temperature is really high, and she was hospitalized. And a few days later, she passed on.
Are you the first child?
Yes, I am.
At the point when your mom passed away, you had officially become an orphan at about 20?
I was 19.
19?
Yes.
At that time, what was the first thing that went through your mind with regards to the fact that you're the firstborn, you had younger ones to look after? What were the things going on in your head? Because there are certain people who are out there who just lost a parent and they're thinking certain thoughts. So it's important to let them know that they're not alone in those thoughts.
Okay, my life at 19 was better. At that time, my life was already better. I was no longer living on the street at that time. So.
Oh, you lived on the street?
Yes.
You need to tell us about that, please.
I will, okay. So when I lost my dad, my uncle came home, so my mom was struggling to feed us, and my brothers had to drop out of school. And then my uncles used to just stop by at that time to just say hello and see how we're doing, drop some food items sometimes, and sometimes just see how we're doing, and then I overheard one of my uncles, like I told you, I'd like to have my own mind. So anytime my uncles are around, I wonder what they're talking about or what they're saying. And then I overheard my uncle saying, Raquel is 16 now. But I was 16 already at that time. About April, when I finished I wrote my work around June, July, came back end of July. And he was talking about, the conversation started around Easter, when I came for Easter holiday. And said, maybe they should just find someone to marry me off. First thing is, we don't marry early where I come from. I'm from Kaduna South, as I like to say South, so... well, Zango Kataf.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so... But my uncle just thought it was a wise idea, if we get someone to marry me, then the person can't take care of my younger brothers. Felt very smart, I still give it to him till today, but not me. Right. And so I heard that, and I just kept that to heart. And I came back and I heard it the second time. At that time, I knew I was done with secondary school. Then I didn't have any option but to do what they wanted me to do, so I decided to run away.
So you ran away to...
So I was born here in Lagos.
You were born in Lagos.
And two of my younger brothers were born here. But then our last boy was born in Kaduna, so that's where we were living at the time. Okay. So because I was familiar with Lagos, I left there when I was 9, going 10. Yeah. I thought I'll find my way around. I know some uncles and aunts.
So you left Kaduna to Lagos?
Yes.
Tell us about that. How did you settle in? Did you find an uncle?
Yes, I did find an uncle.
How did he go?
Okay, so I told my friend at the time, she was a nanny to my younger brother, and I asked her, I said, I want to run away, and I need your help. And I didn't have any money. And she said, who do we talk to? I was like, I have no idea who to talk to. So I realized that this young man that used to work in Econet then, there's this big office then, And so I walked there, and I said I needed him to loan me some money that I want to travel. And he said, why are you traveling? Just finished work. I know you, your father just died, you know. And I said, yes, actually, I want to run away. And he was curious. He was like, you want to do what? And so I explained what was happening. And I told him, you know what, my dad's dream is for me to go to university. In my entire family, no one has ever gone to university. So I want to be the first. If I get married, I'll never go to school. I don't know how I said all the things I said, and he gave me money.
And was that true? Because
Yes.
you mentioned that in your
Yeah,
family,
it was
no
true.
one had
Yes.
ever, and your dad always told you when he was alive
Yes.
that he wants you to be the first to go to university.
So he always just joked and said, if it was a jinx, you break it. He just said that casually at home. He said that a lot. And then when we were praying, my father would just say, oh, if there was a jinx, Raquel would break it. You know, and so I think I told that man that story, and I convinced him enough to give me money at 16 to run away.
And then you
So that's
ran
what I
away
did.
and you came to Lagos.
Yes, I did. I came and I met one of my uncles, you know, and then I explained, I lied to him that, you know, my mom knew I was coming to his house. And so I used his phone to text my mom. I said, you know, my mom was already looking for me in like 2 days because I came by 9 bus. The bus broke down was gunshots, you know, like crazy things happened. I could have just died on the road. Someone at Okene, it was really bad. You know, so I came 2 days after I arrived in Lagos. So my mom was already looking for me. So I used his phone to text my mom that, oh, Raquel is here, you don't have to worry. And mom said, no problem. And she thought I was there for good. But he thought my mom also knew I was with him. So everyone just went lilo until weeks later I realized no one knew I was there. And then his wife traveled, and I was looking for a job. I was going around the barracks, you know, around Obalende, you know, looking for a job. I'll go around Obalende, Kefi, Awolowo, looking for then the advent of these call centers. And I wanted to find one to do a job. And then I eventually found one, but I hadn't started. So I came home that afternoon to have a bath, and he came into the house and he tried to rape me. And so we had a fight with my uncle. There was a struggle and all that, and then I have this huge scar on my hand. It was very big when I was younger, but now it's shrinked. So when I see it, I just remember the beginning of the beginnings, you know, and so there was blood all over the place. Long story short, I ran away. My uncle's out, and that's when I started to live on the street.
Okay.
Yes.
When you say that you lived on the streets,
I mean, I lived on the streets.
you were sleeping on the streets.
The first few days, yes, Obalende, you know, then Obalende wasn't as fine as it is right now. Then people just sleep. People don't even sleep in Obalende. People start their businesses at 11 p.m. You know, so at that time, people were starting their businesses. So people were coming up. So right under the bridge, you see people lying there just resting and chilling, and you just sleep off. And the next day, people will have their bath right there, you know, in the
So
corner.
you had your bath on the street?
No, that first 2 days, I managed.
All right, so you had, I mean, it's so wonderful that we can say such a story and we're laughing and we're talking about it. And I'm glad because we'll get to the point whereby we can now say why you can smile and talk like this. So you were on the street and then what happened?
So I met a woman that she sells food, and I asked her, I said, is there anywhere I can stay? And then I had the bandage on my hand. And she's like, what happened to you? So I just said, well, long story, I don't want to talk about it. And she's like, okay, there are a bunch of girls like you. You know, she just joked and said, like you, at the back. There's a brothel. I'm like, is that a hotel? She said, I was like, no, I can't go there. She's like, well, that's where they all stay. If you really need a house to stay, go there. And I thought that was the only option I had. So I went there to talk to them. She now said, oh, by the way, you can pay and sleep there per night. And I thought, I don't have any money. How would I pay them? So eventually I went there, and they now they asked me, are you going to wash for us, clean, work, and stay here? I just thought, great idea. You know, I can do all that.
And they were all-night workers?
Yeah, all of them. You can't live there if that's not what you do. If I was the only exception, it was difficult staying there.
And at some point, did you ever think, you know, maybe I should join them to be, okay?
Of course. I turned 17 right there, of course, you know, and I kept saying to myself, maybe I should just join. And they had these fine clothes they're wearing, you know, nice pink trousers, you know, there's mismatched there and all that. And then they had mobile phones. I didn't have any, you know, and then if I had to talk to my mom, I'll have to use their phone and hide the number or something, you know, different things. So my mom will not have their phone number. Or I have to talk to my mom and I'll have to be saying, hello, man, I'm looking at the number, so it's reading, so it's 58 seconds, so it's not 51 minute, you know?
Wow.
And so all that, that's how I lived there. So they gave me a place to stay, and then I had to clean for them, wash for them, and all. So it sounds really cool, like just clean, wash, and all that, but these people are night workers.
There was a lot of drama.
Yes.
And I know you also mentioned, because of our time, we can't go into detail, but I know you mentioned the fact that some of the women will go out and by morning, one is not returning. So you saw death.
Yeah.
You saw them, you know, because the work is not pleasant. They go out clubbing. By the next morning, one has been killed on the street. And you had
right
to
there.
experience all this.
So when I see pictures on social media with the girl dead and people are like, how, what happened? I'm like, this is numb. Like, it's numb in these places where the girls are living on the streets.
Yeah.
So I will meet a girl doing her makeup, having a bath like this morning, and the next day they're like, oh, and the way they say very casually, that's how XYZ just died like that too. I'm thinking, as in like, the girl is really dead and people are just talking about it casually. And moved on.
What are the biggest lessons for people that might be going through a similar struggle with life? I'm sure there were times you said, oh, why me? Why am I being punished? I'm sure you even contemplated suicide at some point in time. So what were the things that kept you going? And looking back now, what are some of those life lessons that people need to hold dear to them, even though they don't know what tomorrow brings? Yeah.
So
hello, Nigeria. There's no better place to be, so don't you ever change that dial. What's up, everybody? It's Kabam Zasukwa, and you're watching Hello, Nigeria.
You're welcome back to Hello Nigeria, and we have the pleasure of having Mr. Nnamdi Akuba. I know you're checking your calendars. Yes, today's still Thursday.
Yeah.
It's very rare for us to have him on Thursdays, but it's something special. That's why we had to pull him out of his busy schedule. Now let's talk about Coca-Cola. I saw it in the news last week. A big event, one of the biggest age grade footballing competitions in Nigeria, and produces quite a number of talent. Can you tell us about it?
Well, it's something fantastic, really. We know that we most times try to support, or not really try to, we do support grassroots football because we don't know where the next talents would come from. And this time around, it was the Osun State's school. They call it Osun State's Progressive Comprehensive High School. They did beat that team from Owerri, they call it Owerri City College.
So it's a nationwide football
yes,
competition.
It's nationwide. This happened at Unikon Stadium, Lagos Island, and ended 1-0. And we know this goes into their trust fund, their educational trust fund for the schools. It's not just about winning and sporting talent. It's how the schools too, would get.
So it's a balance between sports and academics.
And that's what they're doing, and that's what Coca-Cola has been all about. Basically, on the final day, we saw ex-Super Eagles and ex-Super Eagles players and the captains. Nwankwo Kanu was there, JJ Okocha.
And talking about the ex-Super Eagles, our heroes, we do have an interview we did with Kanu Nwankwo. Enjoy this.
As you know, I'm somebody who loves to support, to help the underprivileged ones, and I believe this is an avenue, a platform where, wherever you are, if you have the talent and you can do sports or even play football, of course, this is the chance. And for what they are doing, not only that, they are giving scholarship. There's a prize attached to this. Not only that, the MVPs have been taken to Johannesburg and France, which is a wonderful thing indeed.
Well, interesting to see the legend there, and you know what impact that will have on the kids.
Yeah,
I mean, you grow up to look for.
You
look up to Cristiano Ronaldo.
Exactly, you look up to them, and you get to see them on the final day. If you think of Kanu, first thing that comes to mind is Atlanta '96.
Yes,
and you think of how you stayed up, to watch that, and Coca-Cola rather brings that to you, just in front of you.
It will stay in your memories for the rest of your life.
It's nice, but aside Kanu, we also had top officials from the federal government. They were also the Lagos State government, National School Sports Commission, Federation rather. They were there. Senior staffs of Coca-Cola were also there. And
we have some more videos for you on what happened that day.
It's not a good result. It's a sad one if you're a Nigerian. And if you're in my shoe, you will know that it's a hurting result. But all the same, it's a very big wake-up call, not only for the players, for the federation, for everybody. And the match against Cameroon is very important one, a crucial one. And right now, I believe that, of course, we have learned from the mistakes, and we have to work towards it. Everybody have to come out and support them. The players have to do what they have to do because we need a win, we need a result. And if they are coming, they have to know that Cameroon is not a pushover country. They're a strong country, knowing that they won the Nations Cup. So we have to do extra to make sure that we get something from it.
There's a sound taking over the nation. There's a fever all over town. It's a sound of celebration. It's the feeling of love all around. Raise your voices loud, oh. Make Nigeria proud, oh. Join in the fun, oh. Come on everyone, oh. Join in the team. Join in the dream. Join in the game. Join the celebration. Coca-Cola. Oh. Coca-Cola. Oh. Coca-Cola. Oh. Coca-Cola. From place to place, we go show them how to celebrate. So we go show them, say now we get the show. We go show them, say now we get the game. Oh. We make our voices loud, oh. We make Nigeria proud, oh. Join in the fun, oh. Come on everyone, oh. Join in the team. Join in the dream. Join in the game. Join the celebration. Coca-Cola. Hey, hey, hey. Coca-Cola. All right, everybody. Nigeria, Abia, Adamawa, Akwa Ibom, Anambra. Bauchi, Bayelsa, Benue, Borno. Calabar, Delta, Ebonyi, Edo. Ekiti, Enugu, Abuja, Imo. Jigawa, Kaduna, Gombe, Kano, Katsina. Kebbi, Kogi, Kwara, Lagos. You with me now? Nasarawa, Niger, Ogun, Ondo, Osun, Oyo. Plateau, Rivers, Sokoto, Taraba, Yobe, Zamfara. Join in the team. Join in the dream. Join in the game. Join the celebration. Coca-Cola. Hey, hey. Coca-Cola. Yeah, yeah. Coca-Cola. Yeah. Coca-Cola. Team. Join in the dream. Join in the game. Join the celebration. Coca-Cola. Oh. Coca-Cola. Oh. Coca-Cola.
Interesting video there, triumph, and my condolences goes to the losing team. Thank you very much, Coca-Cola, for putting up such a spectacular show, and thank you very much for supporting grassroots football in Nigeria. Unfortunately, that's all for our package for today. Tomorrow is Friday. Thank God it's Friday, and we have an amazing package for you. Do have a great night, and see you guys tomorrow. Bye-bye.
To enjoy more of these our Ogbonge videos when you just watch, press this button to subscribe on top of our YouTube page. You go love am.